Welcome back to Generation Orange, you guys. It is a bittersweet emphasis on the bitter evening. The good news is the Broncos are hosting the AFC Championship for the first time in many years. It'll be back where it belongs in Denver, Colorado. But the thought of that not including Bo Nix was not one that we ever would have anticipated. So that's the big stinger. Bo Nix, of course, played a huge role in the Broncos' 33-30 victory overtime win against Buffalo tonight, which was pretty exhilarating. So let's just start with that.
Yeah, and I just want to throw this out there. I mean, we literally just got the Knicks information like 3 minutes ago. But we were about to start our thing, and we just heard it. So bear with us, guys. It's still sinking in, as if we weren't even able to process the godforsaken game, which was crazy. So here we are, and so for me, this game, if I had to kind of just summarize it, it was like very similar to the last playoff game against the Bills, except the Broncos are a much better team now, and it was in Mile High. The Buffalo was still able to run the ball effectively, unfortunately, but Denver was able to punch back this time. And gosh, I mean, it's the excitement isn't the same now, but there were some huge plays. Some of the Singleton play, the PJ Locke pick. PJ Locke was victimized on pretty much the breaking play. If you guys remember last year, Josh Allen makes a sick play at his expense. He was able to get him back this year. The Broncos found a way to get the win. It was tough. I mean, so many momentum changes and game-changing plays, but in the end, they got it done. And I think it also kind of encapsulated and reminded us what it's like in the playoffs at Mile High Stadium. It's hard to win there if you're not the Broncos.
Yeah, it's certainly. And to have that success, especially without two pretty big pieces of your offensive game plan, I guess, with, of course, Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin.
Yeah.
Yeah, two people who have been developing a lot, especially with Bo, over the last several weeks. So that was certainly a bummer. But that being said, it was an exciting evening for Denver. But yeah, this news puts a whole different perspective, and it's of course I think if you're Josh Allen or you're a part of the Bills Mafia, this just adds another layer of disappointment. At least in my mind, like you lost the game, and now at what? The team that you lost to has now been burdened so much that it's like. Obviously, the Bills, had they won tonight, would have probably had a lot more success.
Yeah, but at the same time, we talked about this recently, and I had mentioned, hey, even if we got to go with Stidham, the Broncos are a very complete team, all across their roster and at all levels. So, and Stidham has played well at times. He's not I don't know. I can't really think off the top of my head of many quarterbacks that are better as far as backups in the league. And I think he's better than some of the starters, honestly. And this is where just kind of, if we get J.K. Dobbins back next week, that does seem to be pretty legitimate. That they are pretty much expecting him back at least by the Super Bowl, possibly next week. Get JK back there. Hey, even if he can only do 8 or 10 carries next week, if you told me right now we're going to get JK for 8 or 10 carries next week, I'm going to feel better, right? And then you just bring in Stidham and you go to battle. What else are we going to do? We're going to not play the games? We're going to be, we're going to just give up? Not sure.
Right.
It sucks, of course. And does it hurt our chances? Of course. But it doesn't make them zero. I still I feel more confident trotting Jared Stidham up next week than I would if I was a Texans fan with C.J. Stroud after what I saw last week. You know, I mean, and to that point, there's not. I don't really see a future Hall of Fame quarterback out there in the tournament left. We got some guys that are having good seasons or whatever, but hey, you know, one win at home, and we go to Santa Clara and see what happens.
Right. That's very true. And of course, that'll be the winner of either, or it'll be either the Houston Texans or the New England Patriots. And at this point, I can't really put my finger on who I would rather play. Beforehand, it was so, I felt very confident anyone could come into Mile High. And, of course, I'm going to put my money on the Broncos. But this changes things a little bit for me because now I'm thinking, despite the Houston defense being as, aggressive and productive as it is, because CJ Stroud has seemed to struggle in the playoffs, maybe that's actually the matchup that you might want if you're Denver at this point.
But then at the flip side of that, do we want Stidham to have to go against that defense?
Yeah.
It's tough because I was just, thinking about this recently, and I've been thinking about it throughout the week. And honestly, my mindset has been get through Buffalo, beat Buffalo. I really felt like the winner of this game was the favorite to win it all, and now the winner, like you said, we don't have a quarterback, but I wasn't really terribly worried about New England or Texas or Houston. Now that we have the backup quarterback, maybe that changes a little bit. I don't know. We're just still, this is all new, but I don't know. It's everything's different, and I'm trying, because I had points about this game I wanted us to talk about and stuff, and it's just all wow. Like it's just hard as a fan sometimes to just process all this stuff, right?
Yeah, the Broncos had a pretty not easy season through and through, but comparatively to I think the other teams in the division and even across the league, the Broncos have been in a really great spot in terms of player health and everything. Obviously, PS2 was out for a few weeks, an injury
Yeah.
that in retrospect didn't actually seem to hurt that much, among other things. And the Broncos have been injury ridden before. I remember losing Vaughn before the season even began. That's just like obviously not, you're gonna throw the towel in, but the Broncos weren't going to be competitive that year likely either way. But this is a little bit different. This is I don't remember the last time something like this has happened. I mean, even George Kittle being injured just a few days ago for the Niners was huge news, I thought, and really affected their chances.
They do, but I do want to throw this out there because I'm thinking, this is all new, but I want to throw a couple of guys at you that you haven't even heard of. Jeff Hostetler was a backup quarterback for the Giants. They won a Super Bowl with him. Bill Simmons was out. Hostetler played in the playoffs. They won. They were a defensive team, much like the Broncos. Doug Williams. You ever hear Doug Williams? You probably have, but you might. Yeah, unfortunately, it was at Denver's expense. Super Bowl 21 for the Redskins. He was the backup, got in there, played well. They won. It can happen. It's a quarterback-driven league, more so now than it was back then. At the same time, we're seeing kind of a resurgence of the value of defense. And we know the Broncos have a defense, and that we should talk about, maybe it's the Broncos got humbled today. They lost the line of scrimmage, but they don't have to play Buffalo every week. I honestly don't think any of these remaining teams can run the ball like Buffalo does. So I still feel really good about the Broncos defense. Why wouldn't I? Even a game where they do give up the line of scrimmage, they still get game-saving turnovers, right? So we got an elite defense. We've known since day one that was the foundation of our team. Now our offense got better, right? And it was so nice to see what we saw this game from the opening drive. Our offense was clicking. We were hoping for it. We predicted they would, and they did. And if you really look at it like they lose two of their top wide receivers, and they still put up 33 points. So we all of a sudden, we had this complete team. Well, now we lose our top quarterback. So we don't know how good our offense is going to be, but we do know that we still have a defense, and, hey, think about Jared, a good opportunity for him. What if he goes out there and balls out? And by the way, how much tape does anybody have or film? I mean, he knows the Broncos offense. He's smart. He's got a good enough arm. He can move okay. He's not the athlete Bo is, of course. He hasn't been practiced. He's not the starter. Okay. But he's a good player. He's a good backup. He knows what he's doing. He's been in the system. This is his third year in the system. I mean, again, the bright side is this Bronco team has been assembled to be able to absorb this thing as best as possible. I mentioned PJ Locke making a big pick today. There's a guy who was a starter for a couple years, and then, okay, bring in Hufanga. Now you're the odd man out. But Brandon Jones gets hurt. He steps in. He plays at a high level and makes a big play. So who's to say that Stidham can't get it done? Now we're gonna probably have to get a running game going. And oh my gosh, I know we're gonna agree on this. Can Sean just run on first down one time?
Felt like the Hackett
He just can't do it. He cannot do it. It drives me crazy. Another thing, Generation Orange fans, we apologize. And we're all in this together, right? You guys are all, whenever you watch this, you've already heard the news. So yeah, we may not give you our breakdown for whatever it's worth like we normally would. We've been thrown this curveball, but I was curious what you thought about Sean punting when they could have kicked like a 56-yarder.
That's a good question. At this point, there have been so many of those kinds of plays throughout the season where it's one of those things that, do we punt here? Do we kick here? Or all of these different things that you could possibly do. And I actually think that Sean he's really, really good in those situations. And obviously it ended up being the right one. So I was okay with it at the time.
Okay. I disagreed with it. I didn't think it was horrible, but for me, you got a chance to go up 9 and make it a two-score game with a guy that can hit it in Mile High with a high altitude. From what I understand, there was no wind conditions. Now I understand the field position and all that. At the same time, this is a Bills team that had been moving the ball, and I thought I would have kicked that. I would have tried to kick that one, but didn't matter in the end. What about? I think more of a head scratcher was the Bills to try to be heroes at the end of the half.
That was I am still scratching my head about what exactly happened there or what the design was. It didn't look like it was on purpose at first, and then maybe it was.
Oh, it was on purpose, because if it's not on purpose, they're just going to line up in the victory formation.
I know, but
I feel there was two.
I mean, just Josh Allen, like the fumble. Like it looked like he was almost anticipating that someone else was going to be right there to pick it up.
I think there were two mistakes. One was just trying to run a play. Two was Josh Allen personally deciding to run with the ball right up the gut when you're going to run out of time. You have no timeouts. So if they tackle you, even if you run to your hero and you make it to field goal range, they tackle you in bounds, you're not going to get time to run the field goal. But what can happen is what did happen. You got jacked by a defender that knows how to strip the football, and the Broncos get a field goal out of it. So I thought that was pretty bad, but there was some sloppiness to this game. Cortland dropped a couple that he normally catches. We had fumbles, that we could have gotten, they could have recovered. I felt like they, those first couple drives, even though we were moving the ball, they were still a little sloppy. There's so many big plays. I'm not going to remember them all. Um,
Favorite one of the night, courtesy of Frank Crum. Ha ha ha.
oh
No one will
yeah,
think to
that
cover
was
me.
cool.
I'll never catch a touchdown. I'm just Frank Crum.
Yeah, Frank Strom. That was cool. And I guess him and Bo are really close, like good
Yeah,
good
I
friends.
have
So
heard that
that's
as well.
yeah, that was a great play. Yeah, and yeah, they were the play calling was really good overall. Again, I don't know why it just established that gosh darn run. I mean, why not? Because you got the altitude, all those things wear them down. I mean, but whatever. They did, it is what it is. They got it done. Maybe they'll commit to the run a little bit more with a backup quarterback.
Yeah, I think you might be forced to, but you're right. I don't know what other team in this league would be in a better situation if they were in the same one when it comes to personnel. I don't know who I would have. I can't sit here and rattle off all 32 backups, but if I comparatively, I'd probably Jarrett Stidham would probably be at the top of my list um, in terms of
I just
backups.
had a yeah, I just had a thought. What if Bo tried to be a hero like Mahomes and play through an ankle, like which Mahomes did, and but they did win a Super Bowl. But then, you know, the Chiefs are built around Mahomes. If the Chiefs lose Mahomes, would have lost Mahomes, they are done.
I also
I don't think
think
the Broncos are
maybe
done.
some of the verbiage around the injury seems clear that he might not it
A
might not be
break.
something, yeah, like a
Yeah,
true full fracture. He's not going to be able to play through it. I think when Mahomes, he had like a hairline fracture around
I
a
think it was.
non-joint bone or something
I
like
think it
that.
was
It was,
just a sprain.
yeah,
I think it was just a serious
very
sprain.
painful,
Yeah,
nonetheless. But I
right.
mean, these guys do have access to top-notch medical and you know,
Yeah,
I'm sure painkillers,
yeah.
whatever, but I wouldn't, hold out hope that we're going to see
No,
Bo
yeah.
come
I
back
don't
this
think
year.
so.
And I'm not even saying that I'm ruling out the Broncos to win the ship. I'm never going to bet against my own team. And I do think that crazier things have happened. It's just, I think what has me bugged was that this was supposed to be with Bo. This was supposed to be his, I guess, catapult into this kind of
Mm.
elevated status of quarterback that I feel like Broncos country has already kind of perceived him as. But I wanted
Right.
Bo to win the ship this year. I didn't want Jarrett Stidham to win the
Well,
championship this year.
sure, sure, but remember, and I know you can remember, in 2015, and he didn't do much after the fact, but a huge part of that championship was Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, I understand that, but
You
that
know,
was in the regular
so
season.
so
And I'm just saying, I just want
right.
Bo to go to Santa Clara and win the
Oh
game
yeah,
himself.
of course you do. No, yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying that if the Broncos do win it, Bo will always be a big part of it. Okay, Bo balled out today. Bo got it done. That pass to Mims at the end was beautiful. He made some great runs. I mean, he's Bo, and Bo's not going anywhere. He's going to be a Bronco. He might. Yeah, he's done this year, but he'll be back. He's going to get opportunities. Okay, remember, this is the Denver Broncos, and yeah, that's the most important position. That's probably the biggest loss of the biggest individual loss we could take, you know. But we still have six All Pros on this team. And I don't think anybody else in the league has six All Pros. Matter of fact, I'm almost sure I saw a chart that had Broncos with six, and like the next team had like four, something like that. So uh, we have a football team here. We have a complete football team. Okay, so Jared Stidham, it's your time, buddy. Don't forget, this is one of the very, very first thing Sean did when one of the very first personnel moves the Broncos did was lock down Jared Stidham to 2 years at money that people were laughing at them for spending. Okay, well, guess what? This was the reason they did it. Now he's a 3-year Bronco, great teammate. You know, let's go, Jared. You're our
Yeah,
guy.
it'll be very interesting to listen into the pressers this week at practice, just to see what the vibe is like. I'm sure we'll have some locker room clips coming out in a few minutes. I believe Sean Payton left the media stand and then returned to it when the press conference
Oh
was supposed to
wow.
be over to make the announcement. I could be wrong about that, or it was just some kind of emergency announcement. But I noticed that he was in a different outfit than he was when he had the
Wow.
initial post game presser. So that's fresh news. That being said,
Yeah, it
that's
came up.
Broncos country. That's also, of course, accounts for why it's a little bit dampened to actually discuss what was a really remarkable game. I'm sure we'll wrap up on a lot of stuff maybe later this week when this news is set in a little bit, because aside from Bo and how much of a kind of cornerstone he was tonight, I'm trying to think of all the things that are transferable without him there, and I think that there are actually a lot of things. And defense, of course, despite being exposed at some points, I think still had a lot of pivotal roles, and wouldn't have won
Yeah.
the game without him. But they've won the turnover battle. I think the time of possession was in the Broncos' favor.
No, they didn't. I checked on that. The Bills had it like 5 minutes more or something. They did.
Okay,
They
but
did win
much
time of
more
possession.
favorably than it was last year.
Wasn't like yeah. No, hey, it was one of those games, and it's like we've been through so many. This regular season, right? 225 regular season put us through so many crazy games, but then when it's in the playoffs, it's like it's a different level, right? But they got it done, and wow. And then we hear about Bo. I was watching the presser actually when you texted, because so yeah, you're probably right. He probably found, and at least I guess we find out soon. I don't know. Um, it is what it is, Here we are. We're in the AFC Championship at home, you know, and that was electric today. The crowd was on fire. They were playing with emotion. My goodness, RJ Harvey has another play where he just gets blasted and keeps his footing. Um, yeah, Alex Singleton. I mean, that guy just made one of the biggest plays in Mile High history. Whatever happens with him, he's been a great Bronco. I know people say this and that. No, that guy, all he's done is, be one of the best tacklers in the league, where and make plays like that. And I mean, that was huge. Just a big win, just a big win. And hopefully we can somehow do it again next week. I think we can. I think we can beat anybody at home with Jarrett Stidham. I said it. I think we can beat anybody at home with Jarrett Stidham. And if there was one team that I wouldn't want to play with Jarrett Stidham, it's the team we just beat.
It's very true. Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. Only time will tell. It'll be a very interesting week, and I'm sure we'll discuss everything that we've seen probably come Wednesday or Thursday to get prepped up for, the most important game that the Broncos have played since Super Bowl 50. Broncos country, don't be despaired. There's still a lot of good, and we are still supposed to celebrate heading to the AFC Championship for the first time in 10 years. So all of that stuff still matters. And what we can't just,
Bittersweet.
well, we're not going to watch the game on Sunday. Like
No.
that's not an option. So keep your head up. All is good. And you're right. I mean, the Broncos are probably in a really good shape, respectively, to absorb this hit, and they have a lot of depth, luckily, all over the place, including at QB, I believe.
I actually think our depth is more tested at wide receiver right now.
That's true.
You know, we really don't have guys that can come in and run those routes, like those guys do and make those plays. We'll see how that transpires. JK, we need you.
Yeah,
We
something
need
tells
you,
me
buddy.
this might put a
Come
little
back and
extra
spearhead
pressure,
our offense, JK. JK,
like he did
who
once.
better?
Yeah,
JK. It's JK or the highway,
that could be.
maybe.
We could be discussing the future Super Bowl champion or Super Bowl MVP. I think if the Broncos make it there and become the Kings, then that would be the case.
What a
Uh,
season.
that being said, Broncos country, we want to hear from you. We want to know what your divisional round Saturday night football experience was like. Let us know how you're feeling. Good, bad, the ugly, all of it. We love hearing from you. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss another episode of Generation Orange. Any final thoughts?
Broncos. No, what else? I mean, we'll do another one. We'll talk more. You know, it's just is unbelievable. You know,
Unbelievable in the worst way. But that being said, Broncos country, we will be here and we know you guys will too. We'll see you in just a few days. Go
thanks,
Broncos.
guys.